Okie dokie, finally got the radiator out of here. It was kind of a pain, but here's the new one. That should work a little better. So I think I'm gonna mount it. So someone had taken it out of the radiator core support and then moved it forward, because they had a different engine in here, so it does kind of help with more clearance. I'm not sure about cooling because it's farther away from the fan, but it would be nice to be able to work on the water pump without taking the radiator out, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, change of plans. I'm gonna put this back where it originally was. The old school way to do it is to cut this, take the top off, you can slide the radiator out, and somebody already did that. So that's what I'm gonna do. Then I already have the mounting bolts and everything, and it'll fit, be closer to the fan. And if I need to change the water pump, I can always do that. So we'll try that. Okay, well, that'll make it a little easier. Installed. This was a little ugly, just spot welded it, but got that back together. Fits in there good. Even the bolt holes in the Chinese radiator lined up really good. So fan's a lot closer to the radiator now, so that'll keep it cool. My flexible hose works on the bottom, so we're gonna go with that. All right, I got the new radiator hooked up, running. Stopped spilling water everywhere, which is good. My throttle still sticks a little bit. I'll have to mess with that, but I think it's gonna work. Right, Mark? Yep. This is my choke for now. Ready? Well, we got the seat test fitted. It's a little thick. We're gonna taper that, but that's what these tests are for. Well, we found out that that a little too tall. This seat frame was made to fit perfectly without any extra padding, because it's got all them springs. So, but it fits nice, so that's good. Shazam! Got the new parts in. Let's throw them on there.
El Guapo, when you see the cattle, you take the cattle. When you see the guns, you take the guns. And when you see the bracket, you take the bracket.
Sure is nice having a couple of parts trucks around. Hey, PJ. So yeah, I didn't have the bracket to hold this brake line in apparently, so went and got it off the other frame. I gotta shove that brake line back in there a little bit without kinking it, so you know, always a challenge, but probably could have made this, but I had it. Well, I got the new pistons installed, but forgot I need a new spring. That's an accelerator cable spring, so I can't use that. This one was broken, so I'll just order one for each side, get those coming, and hopefully have them by the weekend. Ta-da! New springs in the mail. time to get the brakes put back together. Okay, I got the brakes back together and bled. At least I think they did not bleed easy. Got my new bracket on there, so you know the brake line's not flopping around. So throw the wheels on it, throw the floor in it, and take first spin. Well, that was a little rough, but it's moved under its own power, and the first time in, I don't know how long. Long time. A whole lot of fun. The clutch is making all sorts of noise. The transmission bearings are shot. Maybe they'll come back around if I just, keep driving it. Doubtful, but it did move under its own power, so that was cool. The brakes work. I didn't really do an emergency. I only went like 5 miles an hour, so. But it moved, and that's all that matters. I got updates. This thing's up in the air again. You'll notice that's the front drive line, because that transmission's junk. Not surprising. A little bit of a bummer, because, I thought I could save it. What's the matter, little buddy? Don't wanna shift? No, it shifts. It just makes horrible noises. So, I went and got me a pair of T5s. The cool thing is, I only paid for one of them. Eric down at Pinky's rod shop down in Windsor, Colorado. He's a pretty cool dude. We're buddies. We're like besties now. Anyway, I didn't know which one was gonna work the best. So he said, just take them both and bring me back the one that doesn't work. So this one is out of a 93 S10. It's got a little bit better gears in it, a little heavier duty. This one's out of like an 83. They're essentially the same, but that one's got 14 spline input shaft. This one's got 10 spline, and that is what this disc is, which is the same disc that's in the truck. So I don't have to mess around with weird clutch discs, which I can. I did that in the station wagon. So I'm gonna have to shorten that probably. And then I have to get an adapter plate. If I use that one or that one, I have to get an adapter plate so that I don't have to change my bell housing. I don't have to mess with the clutch pedal or the brake pedal if I get the adapter plate. Otherwise, I gotta get a different bell housing, then I gotta change the brakes, change the clutch. So I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. So when I installed this transmission, it didn't have any oil in it. I put oil in it without knowing that the two bottom mounting bolts for the bell housing are not blind, but they go into the case. So, gotta let that drain a little bit. Hubcaps make a great oil pan when you need one in a pinch. So, guess I'll let that drain a little bit before I bench press it back down again. Yep. At least with gravity, you get that on your side. Okay, I got it. Now I'm just gonna get it off me. Get off me, Holmes. Okay. Just pour that oil everywhere. All over me. Great. Not horrible. Put the bolts back in it. Stop it from leaking a little bit. And there you have it. They're both, maybe. Man. Even when gear oil is new, it smells so bad. We did it! Thanks for the help. All right. Their right pack is covered in stinky gear oil, but not too bad. All right, I got my adapter for the T5 to go to the stock bell housing. And then I'm working on the flywheel. Got this resurfaced at a shop in town, so that's nice and shiny. They couldn't do the pressure plate. It's not burned, it's just got rust on it. It's from sitting. You can see where it sat for a long time. So I'm gonna clean that up with some Scotch-Brite pads, these little deals, and get that shiny too. In the words of Flava Flav, yeah, boy! Got it all cleaned up. I also got this. This friction disc is from an 88 GMC Safari and Chevy Astro van. They both had the, or some of them had the T5s in them with the correct splines for my transmission, but it's a little bit bigger disc than the S10s. So it fits my 46 Chevy pressure plate. Pretty sweet. One of the things I have to do to modify this is I have to cut off this end on the right here. It's just a little too long, but you need enough splines on your transmission there to engage, but you need enough bearing retainer so your throwout bearing can slide on there. So that one's too short, so I had to buy this one. I just got to shorten it a little bit. So here we go. So one of the things I have to do to modify the transmission to make it work with the 46 is I had to get a new retainer for the front bearing on the transmission. And the shaft for the throwout bearing is just a little too long. The one that's on there is a little too short because somebody already modified it. So I needed mine to be a little bit longer. So I have plenty of splines for the clutch disc to engage, but also enough room for the bearing, the throwout bearing to push on, because I got that adapter plate that adds just a little bit of length to it. So got it all marked out and I'm gonna cut it. Well, as long as my tape was correct, got it cut. I might bevel that edge a little bit and should be good to go. Mark's making progress on the seat. Is this scrim foam?
Yeah,
scrim foam. The 2-inch foam over there was a little too thick, so this will kind of soften the edges and keep it poofed up. Okay, well, I got it in. The flywheel's not in yet because I didn't want to mess with trying to line up the splines quite yet. But I want to make sure that the input shaft was engaging in the bearing in the crankshaft, pilot bearing. And then I can build a shifter. I got room, which is nice, but I'll build a taller shifter. I'm gonna use the original one. And I can also measure my drive line. Thought about using a little carrier bearing and like a short intermediate shaft, but this is where the stock carrier bearing was, so it'd be like that long. So I'll just have to have a new drive line made back to the rear end, but got plenty of clearance and all that. I'm gonna build some kind of cross member to hook to the original transmission bushing there, so I think it'll work. Check it out. So I took the old shifter, cut it off, welded it onto the new shifter, and then I had to heat it up and bend it forward a little bit, and to bend it that way. But I like it. I like the keeping that. It doesn't do anything. Makes you feel good though. So Mark and I just flipped the gear on this flywheel. The other side was chewed up, so I just like, boop, boop, flip it over. It's real hot. Real hot. All right, I'm testing out the starter. I flipped that ring gear around on the flywheel, so let's see if that was a valuable option. I think it's gonna work. Seems to be working. So I guess that'll work. Here's a shot of the adapter plate I got from HotRodWorks.com. This is in a 46 Chevy pickup with a 216 straight 6 and a 1988 S10 T5 manual transmission. All right, so getting the new clutch. That's my GMC Safari disc. Gotta get it in here. It's got 9 bolts, which is really convenient. But here's the bottom side. Anyway, here we go. All right, about to put the transmission in, hopefully for the last time. I got the new clutch in. Really wasn't that bad. So, here we go. All right, I got it. Wasn't too bad. Got the clutch and everything lined up good, so should be there for a while. Well, here's what I came up with. Made this piece first. I did this one, bolted it to the shifter, and then I actually welded it, tack welded it where it was gonna go, and then I welded the inside. So I think it's gonna be pretty stout. Got it all painted up. I'll let that dry, and then I gotta space it out a little bit on the lever side, but I think that's gonna work. Mark's just getting the seat figured out. I haven't had a lot of updates lately on the truck. I think I'm gonna drive to Cheyenne tomorrow and get a driveline made. But other than that, Mark's doing a little sewing. Looks pretty cool. Well, I'm headed over the hill today to Torque Driveline in Cheyenne. Got my original driveline, it's too short. Got my S10 slip yoke for the T5. So they're gonna build me a whole new one without the slip joint there. But the whole thing needs to be about 4.5 inches longer. But it'll work real slick. Look what I got today. That fancy new driveline from Torque Driveline in Cheyenne. They got it done in less than 24 hours and shipped to me in like 30 hours. Pretty great. Getting ready to test drive the truck with the new transmission in it. But this is a 54 Chevy gas pedal. And I'm trying to make it work with the 46 floor. It's a little bit different, but I think I can make it work. All right, here we go. A little bit of Flintstone action. A fancy seat. Drop the phone. Okay. Let's see if it'll fire up. Oh yeah. All right, I got my gas pedal hooked up. See if I can get this thing to start. Yeah, great. building a cross member for the back of the transmission. It's a little longer than the original, so I don't want it hanging off there and cracking the housing or something. So got this, bolts up to the bottom of the transmission, building this bracket. I gotta be able to clear the exhaust, but I think I got it figured out. Okay, here we go. So what you got here? Got these clamped in place, and then I'm gonna weld that. I got it bolted to the mount, bolted to the transmission. We got the other side clamped up. I figured I'd weld it so that it's nice and flat and everything against the frame, and then I can drill these holes and bolt it in. But it's gonna work. Clears the exhaust, just barely. Recycling metal. Here's the finished product. I'm really happy how this turned out. Got the 2 bolts on either side. Got clearance on my exhaust. Got the new bushing there. Bolted up, welded up. And it's actually tucked up higher than my exhaust. So yeah, they really like how that turned out. That'll work good. I hooked the oil pressure tube up. It's working! So that's cool. I also hooked this up. We'll see if that works. Sure enough. Temp gauge is working too. Now I just gotta get that hooked up. Probably have to put a reducer because it's 12 volt now, but got good oil pressure. 216's got pretty low oil pressure, so looking good. When your parents gave you a work ethic instead of generational wealth, you just smash things. Stupid. Look at this. Mark got the seat done. Well, this is now the nicest thing on the truck. This is the second nicest thing, the bed. But yeah, it's gonna look and feel real nice. Well, I'm glad I didn't throw that away on Friday because I'm gonna use this bumper. It was built for a similar width frame. It's just the profile of the fender cutouts here are wrong. So Charlotte helped me make a little template. But we'll get this where we want to bolt it up, mark where we want to cut the fenders, and then it'll match the profile. I think it'll look cool. It'll match the rest of the truck. All right, so here's basically the final result. It's got 2 bolts holding it. I need to drill some more holes, but that's what I did on the edges. So, you know, before it went like that and it wrapped around the fender, but I couldn't get it far enough forward to wrap around this fender. Plus I didn't want to screw in the side of that. So I left that piece long, cut out that kind of triangular piece, cut this radius, bent it around, and then welded it. So anyway, so now when you look from the front, you can see this sear step. I didn't want like to see inside the bumper if you're looking from this direction. Just wanted a nice step. So yeah, I think that's gonna work real good. It's got that patina on it. All right, so I'm cleaning up this floor pan. This is the new hole for the 5-speed shifter. This was hacked to pieces because this had a different transmission at one point. So I'm just gonna cut this square out, fill that in, maybe put a couple of beads in it. This was the hole that they hacked out for the master cylinder, but mine is farther back and it's bigger, so I cut that, used that to patch that up. So it's a solid floor, it just needs a little less holes in it. Here's the final result for the floor. I don't think I'm gonna grind those welds. I mean, the rest of it's rusty, but here's the new Well, for the 5-speed. Cool thing was there was already like a, I don't know if somebody heated that up and hammered it up or if it was like that, but it was there, so I just drilled into it. Got my emergency cable lever coming through there. Put a couple of beads in that metal. I'll make a little cover for this so we can access the master cylinder, but overall, pretty good. That's in reverse. That's how tight it is, but it clears. Working on the Kingpins on this 46. You'll notice, doesn't seem like much. Well, it's a decent amount. But once you get the wheel on there, it moves a lot. So bushings, Kingpin, and then I actually got a disc brake kit for this, so I'm excited to ditch the drums. Well, I got it out pretty easy. Actually, it wasn't rusted or seized, which is nice. Turns out, my new Kingpins, which are pretty much good for like 41 to 59 or something like that. Lot bigger diameter than what was in there, which is this one. You see the difference here? Yeah, not gonna fit. So, turns out, from my measurements, that axle is from a 37 to 40 Chevy car and truck. So, but the frame, I don't think the frame is that. So anyway, somebody swapped out the axle at some point. It does have smaller spindles too, because the adapter for the bearing is too big. So, gotta figure that out. Well, I got the Kingpin reinstalled. I actually ended up using the original one because the new one was big. Apparently you can ream them out. I don't know how to do that. But it turns out it was just this, I don't know what you call it, cotter bolt holds the Kingpin in place. The old one was just loose. Now, it doesn't go up and down. Sometimes it's just easy stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna put the brake kit on. We'll see how that goes. Looking good. Whilst doing the brake conversion, this thing's kinked and I think I broke it. Yeah, right there's a little crack. So anyway, thanks to my fancy brake tool, got a new one made. I just gotta match those bends. We'll be back in business. All right, I got my new brake line in. Got it all hooked up to the caliper. That one's in. And that one. So it's gonna stop real good. Already got the brakes bled, they work, which is exciting. Because, you know, you need to be able to stop every once in a while. All right, I got all the U-bolt nuts off. That one back there was a pain in the butt. Got it off, and my hoarding is really paying off. I saved these taillights from 49 Chevy I built for a guy, Mike Schneider. And yeah, they bolt right up. So, got to get a new lens. Well, I'll get 2 new lenses because those are like dark. I'll just get red ones. But the back of the truck is looking pretty nice. My fancy bumper and my fancy taillights and my fancy chains. So anyway, I'm gonna do some more work on the rear end because, you know, I'm gonna put that one in there. We'll go from there. All right, I got the axle out, measuring the angle. Looks like it's 3 degrees up. So I got this level. I'm gonna put my angle finder on that. And then I got this, I don't know what you call this, but I transferred the measurements for between the spring pads or the spring perches, centered that, and then I can measure it over the pumpkin in the middle, and we're Right about there, center to center. So I'll get this transferred over to that axle. I got new spring pads and get that welded up and hopefully bolted back in. All right, so I got this set up on my Blackhawk lift here. Works pretty good for working on axles. So I use my tram bar. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I still have it set at the center to center measurement. I got this propped up so I can, you know, set the angle without it moving around, but works out pretty good because there's a flat spot. And then this keeps the distance. And I was just able to measure 6 inches off of there and 6 inches off of there. So this simple tool is really helpful. That's right, got my fancy shim there to hold the angle. Got the spring perches welded on. So now I'm gonna throw it under the truck and see if it fits. I'm only slightly joking, but seriously, I hope it fits. Well, upsy daisy. It's close. Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. Would you look at that? That's pretty neat. It's right on that spring pad. It's almost like I measured it. Okay. Well, it's just kind of a test fit. But yeah, I think it'll work. Well, the biggest boo-boo I made, and I know that I did this, but I had the drive shaft made before I decided to change the rear end out, so I think I find a really big U-joint to make up the difference. Oh well, now I know. Just to never try. All right, I couldn't help myself. I got this mocked up, but more importantly, I got the axle in, it's on the spring pads. And it's not. These are pretty wide tires. So, and I have them, they're free. So I'm gonna use them. But the nice thing is, ooh yeah, inside the fender. Didn't want no bro-dozer. So yeah, starting to look like a proper project here. Rolling even. So I went to the salvage yard, formerly known as Rinkers, in downtown Laramie, 3rd Street. Anyway, picked up a pair of these. They're a 3-inch axle housing bracket for a Chevy. And there's the one I already installed. So yeah, I think it's gonna work good. Came with the tie plates and everything. And it was only 30 bucks for the pair, so win. Well, here it is. It's got a really good stance now. So yeah, finished the disc brakes on the front, got the rear end hooked up, bolted in. I need to get a longer drive line. It's about 2 inches too short. I was able to test drive it a little bit, but obviously not a permanent solution, but I think it looks really, really good. So I'm excited about that. Finishing up this shifter, I had to cut the kind of the ball socket off to get the new rubber on. So I'll paint that. I don't know if I'm gonna put the old reverse lockout trigger on. It looked kind of cool. I might figure something out for that. But I'll paint this and get it back in. Well, here's the finished result. I had this collar with a lock nut there. So it still, you know, goes up and down. Doesn't do anything, but that should work. All right, I got the floor done. Got the new shift boots in for the e-brake cable and the shifter for the transmission. Got a new battery in. It's not hooked up yet, but this is the cover plate. Goes like that. So we got access to that. And then I'm gonna use that as my brake master cylinder cover. It's kind of cool. Had that laying around, but I'm gonna use some self-tapping screws, but then we have access to the master cylinder. Yeah, it's gonna work real good. So today I also got the running boards bolted up to the fenders nice and tight. And then I also, it's subtle, but I noticed that this taillight was taller because it had a license plate bracket. You can see those extra holes. I took the license plate bracket off and then I realized that it was still taller. So I cut like, I don't know, maybe an inch off, re-drilled the holes and dropped it down. So looks pretty good from the backside too. All right, so I wasn't going more than 40 miles an hour, but I think it's because the carb wasn't opening up far enough. So I'm gonna lengthen the pedal a little bit because it was basically like all the way through the floor and wasn't opening it up. So I'm gonna weld that all together and put it back in, give it a try, see what happens. A little update here. I lengthened the throttle rod and that definitely helped. It's just a slow truck, but that's all right. I took the old farm bumper that we had and I cut the top of it off and reused that, so I think it looks pretty good. So, you know, farm bumper on the front and also the farm bumper on the back. But just kind of helps finish it off, you know. Look better with a chrome one maybe, I don't know. But you know, there's a lot of rust too, so it matches. Working on a little something. Hope you're gonna like it. Big pimpin', spinning G's. Oh, that is so cool. Jill, help me. Hey, Jill. Yep, that is, I like it a lot. Well, we gotta get all of this into there. So this will be fun. On a side note, woo, got this shiny machine. Picked it up for free. Just kidding. Just storing it for a friend. He's moving. Doesn't have his new garage put together yet, but 41 Chevy. Special deluxe. Real nice. All right, I'm getting there. It's all sort of a mess, but it's an organized mess. My electric choke hooked up. Got my alternator, one wire, alternator wire hooked up. Kind of had to like split stuff apart and reorganize it a little bit. Got my ignition to the coil hooked up. Those are my two source wires for the power, then obviously that's to the battery. Got the ignition, the key fired up. So you turn that, you hit the button, and it fires up. And then way gooder. We're gonna wait on the wiring, but look at this. I didn't know that was a light there. I didn't even know there was a groove cut for a light, but that is pretty sweet. I like it a lot. Does it dim? Not really. On or off, that's okay. Driving the 46. First time in 34 years. Kind of. I mean, parts of this truck. Well, we have hazards and left and right blinkers. I think my, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but my high beams switch is a piece of junk. But yeah, I don't have rear tail lights. But that might be because the switch is bad. Oh, no, there they go. Those work. Oh, keep digging. Just watch right there. Zoom in? No, right there. Watch that. Aha! And we got brake lights and turn signals. Booyah, grandma. I just gotta replace the bulbs. You know, it's the little thing. Turns out it was just a bulb. Easy enough. Now we can turn. Watch that gas gauge there. Haha! So, I did a 6 volt or 12 volt to 6 volt resistor, and the wire isn't hooked up to the sender, so that means it has full resistance to ground, which makes sense because the resistor's not hooked up. So I'm excited about that, and I didn't burn out the gauge. Flashers work, running lights work, brake lights work. Street legal. You even have indicator lights. Isn't that neat? Pull that out for your hazards, and then to turn it off, you just, pretty neat, huh? Okay, so got the new fuel sender wire hooked up. I reused the old insulation because it was still in good shape to keep it from rubbing. Put a little shrink wrap on that, soldered that, so should be good. All right, see if this gauge works. No, I don't think it's full. Interesting. All right, I fixed it. It was the end wasn't making a good connection, so that was easy. That's probably more accurate. It's probably mostly empty. So, one more thing down. So this inner fender mounting tab broke off at some point, probably when I pulled the front clip off, so clean that up. Gonna weld it back on down there. I also re-tapped those threads, which is a lot easier when it's out of the truck, so you're welcome. Well, it ain't pretty, but it is smoking, so that's gotta count for something. I think I got in there good. Well, every good road trip, especially hauling a car, starts with some little trailer project. The ground came off on this winch, and it is very useful, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. Fixed it. I even put shrink wrap on it, so it should be good to go. She's all loaded up. Onward! Oh wait, no, that's east. That way! Well, I drove it to the shop, sort of. Got it all loaded up. Gotta cut some hair before I drive halfway across the country. Somebody's gotta pay for fuel. I don't know, I'm starting to have second thoughts. Just kidding. I'm excited. Excited to get it to PJ so he can put his touches on it. But, you know, we just got one more sunrise together. Onward and upward. Utah! Nothing like a gas station meal, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not gonna regret that at all. It's a nice, beautiful day in Cedar City, Utah. The last day with the 46. It's been a wild ride. I'm sure I'll video PJ rolling away with it, but its chariot has arrived. I'll miss you. Not really that much, but you know, it'll be 5 minutes while we inconsolable.
Ready to load.
We've arrived. Dang it! Ugh. The plan is get enough speed. We're gonna ramp it up into the back of the BMW.
God, do you want landscape or do you want?
Forgot it was push start. And I got the key on.
Good.
But it like turns over like it's gonna do the start thing.
Yeah, it's got a spring to it. It'll catch. Come on, baby.
Am I doing something wrong?
No.
That's holiday.
Little violent getting up there.
PJ knows where he comes from.
You're not gonna do anything worse. Right.
3, 2, 1, rolling. She walked out of our lives forever. I have such an affinity for the Frontier type. Well, that's it. That's the end of the story. Going home with an empty trailer, which is always a little tempting. You know, you might see something you want to buy, but it'd be a lot better on fuel mileage. But I think my brother's really going to enjoy that truck. And stay tuned for the next build. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be something.